something that nobody wants to think about or thinks may happen to them, but talking about divorce, and specifically divorce and then your retirement plan. What does that look like if you happen to be going through a divorce or went through a divorce, and what could that have a negative impact on your retirement plan? So when we look out there, obviously divorce can be disruptive all the way to devastating, obviously with your current financial situation and into the future. So when we look at this right now, according to Forbes, 43% of first marriages right now are ending in divorce, 60% of second marriages are ending in divorce, and 73% of third marriages end in a divorce. And then we found it was interesting that 6% of couples that happen to get divorced end up remarrying each other. So of that, when you do that, 73% of them stay married for the rest of their lives. So when you look at these different interesting statistics out there, obviously there's a fair amount of people that are dealing with divorce and that sort of process. So when we look at this divorce and the terms that you may hear out there, another one that has gotten popular as a term, at least over the years, is something called gray divorce. And this is for something that they reference with specifically if a couple age 50 or older is going through a divorce. It's interesting, since 1990, the divorce rate for Americans age 55 or older has doubled, and over 65 and older has tripled since 1990. So an interesting piece there of how that obviously can affect it. As you can imagine, the later in life one may get divorced, sometimes the more challenging it is to kind of retool back into those retirement years and have that plan. What are some things you should be looking for if this happens to you or you're going through this process? One, there's something called a qualified domestic relations order. Some people call it a QuDRO. These get put in place if you're splitting up qualified plans, 401k plans, such like that. If you're younger than 59 and a half, remember there could be early withdrawal penalties and stuff like that. These orders put in place allow you to move those funds to each other's portfolios or accounts without some of those penalties and taxes that go into place. Also, understand your Social Security benefits. What are your potential spousal benefits if you're going to be drawing off of your now ex-spouse, and the rules and regulations that go along with that sort of situation. Health insurance planning. Did one of you carry health insurance for the other person, and now maybe one of these individuals has to go out in the marketplace or through their employer, or maybe you're 65 and older and Medicare is involved and all that sort of stuff. But making sure you're looking at that and having the appropriate health insurances in place. Creating an inventory of all of your investments and assets. You know, going through and this little account you forgot about over here, maybe you open this account or a life insurance account. You know, gather up all those assets and make sure you understand what they are, what they're worth, how they function, whose name they're in. While you're doing that, look at beneficiaries. Obviously, most people have as a primary beneficiary their spouse on, as that if something was to happen to them. You may not want that anymore if you're going through a divorce, right? So make sure you're going through and updating those, because guess what? Beneficiary designations are like written in stone. You know, when those happens, if you haven't made that adjustment and God forbid something happens to you, guess what? It's going to what you have as that beneficiary designation. So make sure you have those up to date to the appropriate people, whether they're children, siblings, friends, whoever you want those things to go to, charities in some cases. Again, make sure they're up to date, especially going this time through that. Your retirement plan. Obviously, you probably were planning on two Social Securities, 2 incomes, 2 groups of assets, all this sort of stuff, and maybe now you're in a situation where it's just one. What is those? Where is the sources of income looking at? And then what does the budget look like? Have you had an increase or decrease in expenses? And sometimes, even though you're going from a 2-person household to a 1-person household, sometimes you see an increase in cost, right? Housing and all that sort of stuff that happens during that time. So it's really important to, and obviously, if you're still working, look at that contribution and all that sort of stuff going into plan. How are you setting aside savings during these times and all of that? And finally, maybe you have to adjust your lifestyle during that time. Again, when you look at out there and look at your goals and what do you still want to achieve, not only in the workplace, in your social life and family and all this sort of stuff, you know, consider that lifestyle and that. So if you're going through this process, you're not alone. We here at Centennial Wealth Advisory help folks through this during this time. So if you have questions, comments, concerns when it comes to that, and if you just want a second set of eyes on things, let us know. We'll help you through that process so you can still plan to retire well.